Can you please stand for the anthem? The Honorable Dr. Lloyd Barnett, OJ, the Honorable Miss Justice Hilary Phillips, CD, KC, retired, the Honorable Dr. Peter Phillips, OJ, the Manley family, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, OJ, President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Winston Anderson, Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Honorable Patrick Robinson, OJ, Judge of the International Court of Justice, retired, the Manley family, Mrs. Janet Morrison and family, Mr. Kevin Powell, President of the Jamaican Bar Association, Mr. K. Churchill Nita, Casey, and his wife, Mrs. Angela Nita, Mr. Frank Phipps, an honoree, Mr. Earl Witter, KC, guests of the Norman Manley Foundation, Dr. Professor Ali, Dean of the Faculty of Law, Senior Tutor, Miss Eulalie Greenaway, tutors of the Norman Manley Law School, Miss Denise Kitson, President of the General Legal Council, Mr. Leonard Green, President of the Jamaica Advocates Association, distinguished guests all, welcome. As the Norman Manley Law School celebrates its 50th anniversary, I am sure I said Mr. Kevin Powell, President of Jamaican Bar Association, but he was giving me a look. As the Norman Manley Law School celebrates its 50th anniversary, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this event, at which the CCJ Academy will present the latest publication in the Eminent Jurist series, a publication highlighting legendary Caribbean practitioners who have left an indelible mark on the profession. I wish to congratulate all the honorees, acknowledge their family and friends here today to support them, and I also acknowledge the 48 persons named in the publication. But today, we especially honor the 10 named practitioners for Jamaica. We are very grateful to have with us Dr. Barnett, Justice Phillips, and Mr. Frank Phipps here with us today to actually receive their publications. as well as Mrs. Janet Morrison, on behalf of our beloved late Honorable Mr. Justice C. Dennis Morrison, retired President of the Court of Appeal. Not surprisingly, the majority of the honorees are persons who would have completed their legal education prior to the Council of Legal Education establishing Caribbean legal education as a post-colonial enterprise. The Norman Manley Law School accepted its first graduates in the academic year 2023-2024. We are therefore especially pleased that among those named are 2 graduates of the Norman Manley Law School. I mentioned Justice Morrison, but also who's from the very first class, but also included is Miss Joyce Kentich KC of the OECS, a member of the class of 1985 of the Norman Manley Law School. And so it is particularly good to know, in celebrating 50 years, that in that very short period, we have graduates included in this remarkable list of honorees. Excuse my bias. Dr. Barnett's contribution to legal education, a former chairman of the Council of Legal Education, and in whose honor a lecture series has been named, is well known. Justice Hilary Phillips is often mistakenly held out as a graduate because she has always supported every activity of the school. And this, in fact, is her 28th year teaching as an associate tutor. I also wish to congratulate Mr. Frank Phipps. And I wish to add my words of congratulation to the CCJ Academy through its director, the Honorable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson. It is imperative that we bring attention to the rich contribution of these legends and celebrate them. And although it has been an extremely busy year for the Norman Manley Law School, when we were called upon to host this event, we had to say yes. I wish to add that the function today will be followed by our annual Norman Manley lecture, which begins at 6, at which Mr. Milton J. Samuda Esquire will deliver a lecture on sports law and economic development. If you're able to, no compunction, no pressure. You can join us after cocktails are finished. So I wish to hand over now to again congratulate the honorees on this remarkable achievement, and to hand over to the first person to speak now is going to be Mr. Powell, on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association, to bring their words of congratulations. Please don't fall down.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, honorees, my esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. I am privileged and honored to have been asked to deliver remarks on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association at this prestigious ceremony that has been organized by the CCJ Academy for Law to celebrate the remarkable achievements of the legendary Caribbean legal practitioners. Today, we recognize the exceptional individuals who have not only shaped the legal community of this country, but have left an indelible mark regionally, if not globally. The recipients of the eminent Caribbean Juris Legendary Caribbean Legal Practitioners Award have demonstrated the commitment, the expertise, and the dedication to justice that merits their recognition. Their careers mirror a deep sense of integrity, intellectual acuity, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. They have all advocated at the highest levels. They have upheld the rule of law, and they have mentored countless others who will follow in their footsteps. In our rich Caribbean history, the legal profession has always played a pivotal role in advocating for human rights and social justice. And the jurists we honor today have been at the forefront of this noble endeavor. They inspire us to continue striving for excellence, to uphold the highest standards of professional conduct, and to remain steadfast in our commitment to justice. To the awardees and to their families, on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association, I extend our heartfelt congratulations and deepest gratitude. Your dedication and achievements serve as a source of inspiration for countless current and future generations of legal practitioners. You have attained legendary status, and your legacy will undoubtedly continue to influence and shape the Jamaican and the wider Caribbean legal community. I thank the CCJ Academy for Law for organizing this significant event and for providing us with the opportunity to honor these remarkable jurists. I want us all to continue to celebrate their contributions and to work together to advance the cause of justice throughout the Caribbean. Thank you.
Let me apologize on behalf of the Chief Justice, who is actually on circuit in Portland. It was his intention to come in virtually, but you know how trials with jury go. They're not things you can plan. So I don't think we're going to have him available as we'd hoped. So I'm going to ask Mr. Leonard Green, the President of the Advocates Association, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for this special honor to bring greetings on behalf of the Advocates Association of Jamaica. I cannot, and I must mention the fact that the Advocates Association of Jamaica was established and formed by the late Ian Ramsey. So it is a special honor of mine to be standing here and giving recognition to his contribution. But you must permit me a brief indulgence, Madam Chair, because you spoke about your school, and it's only fair that I be allowed to speak about my school, because I know my learned friend, Mr. Frank Phipps, is wearing a particular colored tie. And the fact that my learned friend, Ms. Dr. Lloyd Barnett, is not wearing a tie of the same color does not mean that they are not umbilically linked to the same institution. And as a member of that institution myself, I know there's a real likelihood that I may one day reach the eminence of these two gentlemen. If for no other reason but for green and black, I hope by some other means. Now, in recognizing the role of the advocates over the last few decades in Jamaica, one cannot help but remember the days when persons went to court. That was before you had virtual courts, that is, and ensure that they got a seat so that they could see and hear the eloquence of a Ian Ramsey, and before that, a Norman Washington Manley. And this was part of the entertainment for some persons in those days. Unfortunately, the post-COVID era has changed things tremendously, and not many people are able to participate in all the virtual experiences that is taking place. It does not mean, however, that the level of advocacy has fallen. But we have to recognize that the changes are things which we will have to live with. So in congratulating the organizers for the effort they have made in highlighting, I just glanced Mr. Walter Scott, in highlighting the endeavors of the great advocates. We hope that it will not only stay in book form, but it will be disseminated in other forms, because we know our young advocates are not too inclined towards books, but they like other platforms. And I trust you will take the opportunity to reach them there where they are. So I thank you for this opportunity to congratulate the advocates who have gone before. I congratulate Madam Phillips. I'm very happy to see you here, ma'am. And Madam Janet, we are happy to see you here. And all the very best to the organizers and all the participants this afternoon. Thank you very much.
I acknowledge the presence of Mr. Donovan Walker, President of OCBA, as he joins us. And I don't know if there's anybody else who entered since I gave the list, but I now invite the Honorable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice and Director of the Caribbean Court of Justice Academy, who has led the way. When you get the chance to read the foreword by the President of the CCJ, you will see all that he says about Justice Anderson. I'll leave it for that moment and simply invite him now to do his presentation.
Yes. Thank you, Principal Aino, revered honorees, distinguished jurists and officials, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Permit me to say how delighted I am to be here with you and to witness how this event has been transformed from the original proposal of simply having a photo op with our honorees into this grand occasion before such an auspicious audience. Greatest credit for this metamorphosis goes to Principal Carol Aino, who conceived of twinning it with the annual Norman Washington Manley Lecture. Principal Aino. And to Mrs. Jacqueline Samuels Brown, KC, and Miss Sylvan Edwards, both of whom supported this initiative in ways which are too intricate to detail here. From an institutional perspective, allow me also to recognize the collaboration of the Norman Manley Law School, the Jamaica Bar Association, and the General Legal Counsel, as well as the Organization of Commonwealth Caribbean Bar Association. The concept of honoring eminent Caribbean jurists was conceived and first executed in 2019 in Port of Spain, Trinidad, when the CCJ Academy recognized the contribution of 19 international law jurists. Among these luminaries were the incomparable Sir Sridhar Ramphal and our own globally renowned judge, Patrick Robinson, who is with us today. Other Jamaican nominees, awardees included Professor Ralph Carnegie, Professor Stephen Bassiani, and Dr. Kathy Ann Brown. The second installment of the awards focused on pioneering Caribbean women jurists. Among the 34 selected were the Jamaicans, Justice Zela Makala, former Chief Justice of Jamaica, and Daisy Lucille Chambers, whose law establishment, thank you, whose law establishment still bears her name. The third installment considers legal practitioners. The Academy's Regional Advisory Committee hammered out the relevant criteria and then considered a total of 115 nominees from across the region. Over a painstaking process lasting several months, the committee eventually selected 48 as being the creme de la creme and worthy of recognition as legendary Caribbean legal practitioners. The intention was to compile a book of the profile of our 48 honorees and to commission a video of the lives of these remarkable individuals. Unfortunately, we could not identify essayists in respect of 4 of our honorees, including 2 from Jamaica, about which I may have something to say on another occasion. However, the pleasant news is that the book has been published with the 44 profiles. Jamaica has 10 awardees, as we heard earlier, the largest national contingent among the 48. The subtitles to their essays are meant to capture the essence of their profiles. The Right Excellent Norman Washington Manley, quote, an intellectual giant, brilliant advocate, a man of inflexible integrity. Honorable Vivian O.S. Blake, KC, urbane, brilliant, witty. Honorable David Corr, Honorable Jack Smith, Justice C. Dennis Morrison, a Caribbean legendary lawyer, brilliant, decisive, elegant. Justice Hilary Ann Phillips, QC, a woman of strength, tenacity, and resilience. Honorable Frank Milton Phipps, KC, a symbol of humility and service. Honorable Ian MacDonald Ramsey, QC, advocate extraordinaire, leader, exemplar, teacher, man of principle, and friend. Dr. the Honorable Lloyd George Barnett, a legal colossus, who has become a national and regional treasure. I was hoping for a smile, but not yet. I see the beginnings of one, yes. And finally, Dr. Kenneth Rattray, QC, the litigator par excellence. We are honored today to be able to present each of our surviving honorees a copy of Legendary Caribbean Legal Practitioners, a collection of their stories and that of their peers, a small token of a grateful people. Our beloved Justice Morrison transitioned recently, and we are truly privileged to have with us Janet Morrison, who will be presented with the book on his behalf. These presentations will take place shortly. I should say that the video is well into production, and we're on track for its release on 4th July, the anniversary birthday of our first legend, Norman Manley. The stories you will read in the book and see in the video are no doubt a poor substitute for seeing our legends in action, in full flight, so to speak. Those of you who did will always treasure those memories. Even the anecdotal stories that have come down to us through the oral tradition are enough to evoke wonder and admiration. Those of us who did not see them or hear the stories, we have the next best thing, a written video profile of these greats. The essays you will encounter could not be livelier and more varied and are sure to both fascinate and entertain. The common thread readily apparent is that these 48 stand out as being among the best of the legal community in a formative period of our history. We are convinced that legendary Caribbean legal practitioners will leave the reader with the realization that the awardees in no small measure contributed to what is good and useful in our society. Their exploits on behalf of their clients have passed beyond exuberance, flamboyance, and even excellence, and into the pages of history. In a quote taken from the back cover of the book, "Whatever semblance of society we have achieved is due in no small measure to legal practitioners who have steadfastly advanced the interests of their clients against other private litigants and against the state. The greatest of these practitioners are legends, who we are proud to celebrate." Finally, let me underscore the obvious. The legends chosen are pars pro toto, representatives of a far larger number of legal practitioners who are worthy of our respect and admiration. Many more of the 150 nominees could easily have made the list. Taken all together, these are the jurists on whose shoulders we stand in our continued march towards a more just society. Thank you. And now we are ready and prepared to present to those of our essayists who are present in the audience. Will those persons come forward, please? I see Mr. Walter Scott, a person with whom I spent some time at Cave Hill in the classroom, but also on the football field. He was there, sir. I saw Mr. Nita, Mr. Churchill Nita, would you also come forward? And whilst Mr. Nita comes forward, we have, of course, the privilege of the presence of the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Patrick Brooks, who, of course, among other things, is one of our essayists. and also Ms. Douglas Lays, who was not on the football fields with me, but who nonetheless is a very close friend. He says he was mainly in the library when we were on the football field. Thank you all, essays. Appreciate it. And now we come to the highlight of the proceedings, the presentation of the books to the honorees. But before they are thus presented, I'm going to ask for them to be pinned. And they're going to be pinned with the pin of the regional court, the Caribbean Court of Justice. I don't intend to get into any controversy, right? All right, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Jacqueline Sambers Brown to come forward and first of all, pin the principal of the Norman Manley Law School, who has been such a great support. And then, would you start with Mr. Phipps, please? Mr. Frank Phipps. I'm told that Mr. Phipps could never resist a beautiful lady, so there you are. Absolutely. Dr. Lloyd Barnett, who I'm sure will be smiling once you receive his pin. Justice Phillips. Careful. And Mrs. Morrison. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. And now, by the authority vested in me, I'm trying to recall the source of the authority, but I am now to present the book to each of the awardees. Go there. Yes, sorry, there's just one little stumble that we made, and we want to correct it now. Justice Phillips is insisting that she should receive a second book because she was also an essayist. So, remember, a woman of tenacity and resilience. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege. The floor is now open to any of our honorees who may wish to say a few words. The time is now. I'm not sure if the mic can I take the mic down? Who- Okay. You're coming down? I gather that the Manley family is represented. Would you please come forward, sir? I assume that you are the representative, duly authenticated as representative. And I will warn Mr. Phipps that we only have a few minutes.
You ever, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You ever heard a lawyer and a former politician take 1 minute? I had to come up here because I wanted to express thanks for those who were courageous enough to nominate me, and also to congratulate the other awardees. I don't know if any of them have any secret ambition like myself that you would like to expose. I hope that this book will get me through high school, sixth form, honoris causa, because all of them have the big degrees. But thank God, with the help of my parents and my late wife and God's guidance, I was able to make it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to, at age 95, to stand up. To stand up here and express the real hope that I have now got the wings to go through sixth form. Thank you. Thank you very much. Did I get the minute?
All protocol observed. On behalf of the family of the late Justice Cecil Dennis Harrington Morrison, that may be kept very close to his chest, Harrington, I wish to say thank you to Justice Winston Anderson, Director of the CCJ Academy for Law, and all the members of the Academy for the recognition of the lifetime work, study, and scholarly devotion of my late husband as an advocate, lecturer, and jurist. I wish to congratulate the fellow awardees, Dr. Lloyd Barnett, Frank Phipps, KC, and retired Judge Hilary Phillips, CD, and to say how greatly humbled my husband would have been to be included among the awardees present and listed in the publication as being legendary Caribbean legal practitioners. He would have been truly pleased indeed, being remembered as a Caribbean man. He so believed in the peoples of the region and the indigenous institutions of the region. My only regret is that he's not here today to receive this well-deserved award, recognition, and honor on his own behalf, in the presence of his family, represented by Anthea and P.T. and Tariq Morrison, Giselle Gibson, Paul and Barbara Watson, Churchill, and Angelinita. It is my distinct pleasure to accept this presentation of the book on behalf of my late husband and on behalf of the entire family. Thank you all.
Good evening, all. It's quite distressing to me that this interesting function, which was scheduled for so many days, December 13th, 2023, April 16th, May 10, and May 23, now the event is taking place when I can barely speak. I'm suffering from severe chest cold. I nearly missed it. But here I am. You'll have to forgive me if I disappear early and can't share festivities with you all, or because I don't want to collapse and have dear Dr. B to come and save me, because the doctors say that this is a reckless pursuit that I'm on. If I cannot refrain from doing so, please forgive me from coughing incessantly. I give a huge thank you to the CCJ Academy and Justice Winston Anderson. I thought he was a chairman. I hear he's a mere director. Anyway, I call him chairman for his persistence in insisting that this wonderful tone-like book is delivered to the honorees in person and not sent in the mail. Recognizing the contribution of these many years of our contribution to this noble profession of ours, because I added up the years, all three of us here today, and it's decades of years of admission to the bar. I feel humbled to have been selected for this signal honor among such great legal giants in the Jamaican context. I mean, right now in Washington, Manley and Ian Ramsey, Blake, David Core, Jackson, McKenna. It's an incredible list. I've left Dr. Barnett, Frank Phipps, and myself at the end because we were chosen as those persons you could still see and touch. And my beloved C. Dennis has fallen out of that category on the 3rd of February, just 2 sad months ago. So Dr. Barnett, Frank, and I feel very blessed and special. So we've spent many years in the profession. We've seen the law evolve. We've seen and been part of major constitutional amendments, objection to others, been a part of the protection of the rights of persons, helped write the civil procedure rules. For me, additionally, it's been interesting to recall that when I joined the legal profession way back in 1974, there were only a handful of women practicing advocacy before the higher judiciary. They were more engaged in solicitor work in chambers, so it was not easy to be readily accepted in the practice in the courts. When canvassing my ambition to be deployed as Crown Counsel in the Attorney General's chambers, that was roundly rejected by the then Lord Solicitor General Ken Rattray, my fellow honoree. But I was in good company because he also had a dismissive approach to Angela Hudson Phillips, King's Counsel, who was an extraordinary counsel at the Inner Bar and one of my mentors in the profession. In defense of the Solicitor General, he told me that there were already sufficient female counsel in the chambers. At the time, there were 3. Shirley Miller, Shirley Playfair, and Betty Hines. But I say that was a good decision made for me anyway, because instead of giving back at the public bar at the beginning of my career, as I'd been charged to do by my father, Sir Roland, the former Chief Justice himself, I served the public on the appellate bench for over a dozen years before I retired. However, that situation has changed so much, indeed, considerably so over the years. There's so many women in the magistracy, the higher judiciary, and specifically throughout the legal profession. And for this, we thank the University of the West Indies and this great institution where we stand today, the Norman Manley Law School, named after the greatest advocate of them all, the Honorable Director of Public Prosecution. The greatest advocate of them all, the Honorable Norman Washington Manley. You will recall that there was a time when there was the Honorable Director of Public Prosecutions, the Honorable Chief Justice, and the Prime Minister were all female. That was a proud time for us. But I'm not suggesting that that's how it should always be. And I've never been a proponent of flipping the male-dominated profession to the opposite. I believe in balance. A strong bar is one where the prosecution and the defense boast of many competent, erudite, and efficient counsel, male and female alike. The profession will not develop as it ought if it reverts to how it was previously perceived, with not everyone being of the view that they have an equal chance of upward mobility, opportunity, and success. Permit me, though, in the short time that I have been given, to say a little about the honorees with whom I share this special moment today. Dr. B, as I affectionately call him, is one of the most knowledgeable persons I've ever known. He's been the true leader of the bar for the past several years. He's someone who knows everything and is prepared to share it all. He enjoys seeing persons develop, and much of what I have achieved in and out of the courtroom, a great part of it is due to his extraordinary guidance and leadership, for which I happily, publicly thank him. He's more than my eminent colleague, he's my very dear friend. And he's so deserving of every accolade that any one of us or any institution can bestow on him. We try to ensure that he knows how much he's held in high regard and how much we simply love him. Frank, a giant in the criminal legal arena in the Jamaican landscape, I recall fairly early in my career that you, Frank, influenced me greatly. There was a case I did in the gun court. I thought I should have won. A verdict of acquittal was expected by everyone. It was a high-profile criminal case, an Olympic aspirant from that great rural school in Middlesex. But I lost. Instead of putting myself together immediately, I wept with the defendant and his entire school community and was beginning to enjoy a real self-indulgent pretty party. With your cool, calm, collected approach and knowledgeable guidance, you got me to focus on all of my strengths, get the transcript of the matter before the court in the quickest time, and prepare the appeal properly. I don't know whether you decided to arrive late on the morning of the Court of Appeal on purpose, as you are supposed to be leading me, but I had to acquit myself on my own without your quiet brilliance, and the verdict was overturned in 10 to 15 minutes. But there were so many lessons well learned, and I'll never forget you for your interest in my personal development. I cannot speak enough about my dear friend C. Dennis Morrison, who was my best friend at the bar for over 50 years. He was an extraordinary, an incredible teacher, and a brilliant and beloved jurist. On top of all that, he was a true friend to many and to me. His footprints will be hard to follow. I consider it an honor to do research on him to write his essay. His whole life has been legendary, a true exemplar. We will miss him now, and we will miss him for so many years to come. Rest well, my friend. On the 8th August this year, I will celebrate, God willing, 50 years at the bar. I've already celebrated 30, not 28, Madam Ina, years of tutoring here at the Drummond Manley Law School. That will let you into the secret of what an elder I am. But I've long ago looked at the passage of time and each additional year as a wonderful and divine blessing. I've enjoyed my years in the profession, at the outer and the inner bar, and on the appellate bench. I like to say that the profession has been good to me, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. My words of legacy would be, always adhere to and protect the rule of law, be focused on continuous learning, and work assiduously in whatever way you can, and through whichever voice is yours, to ensure that we accede to the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final appellate court and demonstrate that we have finally achieved independent national self-respect. Justice Brooks, thank you so much for being the essayist for my section of this wonderful and prestigious text. I thank you publicly for participating in the project in this way. I hope you've been kind to me, and have made my interesting journey in the law an interesting tale. Thank you anyway. Thank you so much. Finally, I thank the CCJ Academy of Law for selecting me for this signal honor. I will always treasure the ceremony today and this text. It is said that an honor bestowed on you by your peers is not only extraordinary, but very special. There are those who would say that there's nothing that could be more important. To the members of my family who are here, Peter, Betty Ann, Charmaine, and to my friends Denise, Kimberly and Christopher, and all those who could not make it, you know that I could not and cannot manage without your support. I'm humbled that you continue to be a part of my life. The Lord has truly blessed me. Good evening to you all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have to ask if it's my turn. There is a word which is used very regularly these days. When somebody thinks something is great, they say it's incredible. And I've been warning people about it. And just last week, I heard one of the commentators following the Trump trial saying that the witnesses' evidence was incredibly credible. And this occasion is really incredible for me because to be listed among these great people is just amazing. I've had the privilege of working with, beside, behind, and before most of these persons, excepting the greatest of all, the most excellent national hero. But I did have some encounters with him. And whereas I can speak with great appreciation for the fellowship and the support and friendship of those others with whom I've worked, I noticed him from a distance, so to speak. When I left school, the opportunities in those days were quite limited. And there was just 3 scholarships available. The Jamaica Scholarship, you had to come first in the island. And if you're doing arts, that was very difficult because the science people were getting 95. So if you got 80, you're not anywhere near. And then the Rhodes Scholarship, which required some time, and the Easter Scholarship. So I entered for the Easter Scholarship and went to the interview. And the Honorable Norman Manley was one of the people conducting the interview. And I started speaking about my hope to do research in history. And he asked me, what significance can what happened in those days have for the future development of Jamaica? I didn't get a scholarship, so I assumed that I was able to answer. The next encounter was much more promising because I had then come back and started practicing, was an assistant Crown Counsel in the Attorney General's department. And there was some, some things which we quarrel about today happened in those days. And there were some charges of corruption by some agricultural officers in relation to subsidies being given to farmers. And he then had taken over the Ministry of Agriculture portfolio. And I was appointed to conduct the inquiry. So I conducted the inquiry and sent in a report. And the Attorney General, Honorable Leslie Condell, said, Barnett, Mr. Manley is asking why it is that you first interviewed the suspect. And I said, well, he was the person, he's not a child, he was a person with most knowledge about what had happened. And then he said, no, man, he said it's a very good report. So I'd recovered from the ISO situation. And then my first important case, in fact, my first civil case, when I went into private practice, was the Michael Manley election petition case. I was being led by Richard Mahfood. And then Eric Bell called and said, Richard Mahfood has a back problem and can't stand. You will have to present the opening argument. And in the course of that opening argument, I referred to a case, Robinson and Love, and said the only thing good about this man was his name. And I heard a chuckle behind me. And when I turned and looked, it was Norman Washington Manley. So that made my day. In fact, it inspired my future career. So that it is extraordinary to be included in a group of those persons you have heard named. It is overwhelming, and I only hope that those who come after us will find something in what we have done to inspire and encourage them. And that is really the whole purpose of life, to try your best and also to have good influences. I thank you all for being here, and especially my family members, because at our stage, Frank, they are very important to us. And so, I'm very conscious of the dependency which follows in this time of our existence. And really, this is a glorious occasion, and I'm happy to be with you all. Thank you very much.
Just before we move into the photo op, you heard about the photo op. This is now going to be the photo op, and we managed to get from the museum the bust of Norman Washington Manley. So we want pictures taken with the bust. I think you can say this has been a rich evening. Dr. Barnett, who seems to take the word retirement entirely out of the dictionary, especially for those of us who wish to retire. Every time we look at him, we think, why? And of course, Mr. Phipps seems to have even taken that further. And so today we look at our legends. There was no way we could have just had a photo op. We had to celebrate. We had to remember. And at least I think there's one student in the audience, because exams finished on Friday. And so students do not come back to the law school after exams. But we have one student in the audience, and the importance of students being exposed to experiences like this. And I'm so happy that the CCJ recorded it, published it, because students will have the benefit of it forever. And so thank you, Chairman of the Caribbean Court of Justice Academy. Senior tutor, please record Justice Phillips is 30 years and not 28. And we will celebrate you at the gala on June 15th. All of our associate tutors who have given service of 15 years plus. So we were counting and counting badly. So 30. Our records weren't very good back then. And of course, we're so happy that you happen to be with us today, Mrs. Morrison, because, of course, as I've said on several occasions this year, the name Dennis Morrison is woven into the fabric of the Norman Manley Law School. And Dr. Barnett, next time we'll invite you to do the Norman Manley reflections. I didn't know you had so many reflections. Please remember, for those of you who can join us, after cocktails, we move into the Norman Manley lecture, and I see our distinguished speakers here, Mr. Milton Samuda, thank you, who is going to give us a journey on sports law and economic development. And we have Paris coming up. And so I'm sure you'll be very interested. Thank you all again. Please join us for cocktails, and if you're able, join us for the lecture at 5. Thanks.